Welcome to the Imperfectly Inspirational Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bowman. We're so glad to have each and every one of you tuning in this week. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you're listening to, so this way you don't miss out on any of our newest episodes. Also, if you're looking for a little more inspiration each week, check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/imperfectlyinspirational. Give us a follow there, so this way you can get a little more inspiration throughout the week. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our subject matter today. So I want to do something a little bit different. I'm going to get to the text here in just a moment. You know, it's very important that we kind of break up some of the monotony here and there of what we talk about. And throughout Christian dialogue, there is a common goodness and love and mercy aspect of what is spoken about, and that is true, and that should be talked about. Sometimes the harder things are neglected or maybe are shunned completely. Today I do want to talk about a harder aspect. It's not the happy-go-lucky deal, but it is something that is in the Bible, and it is something that we definitely need to talk about. So I want to have you go today. We're going to be reading from Luke chapter 16, verses 19 through 31. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into this, and then we'll go and we'll talk about it here in a moment. So Luke chapter 16, verse 19 through 31 says, "There was a rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen, who feasted sumptuously every day. And at his gate was laid a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores, who desired to be fed with what fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, even the dogs came to lick his sores. The poor man died and was carried by the angels to Abraham's side. The rich man also died and was buried. And in Hades, being in torment, he lifted up his eyes and saw Abraham far off at Lazarus' side. And he called out, 'Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus to dip the end of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am in anguish in this flame.' But Abraham said, 'Child, remember that you in your lifetime received your good things, and Lazarus in like manner bad things. But now he is comforted here, and you are in anguish. And besides all this, between us and you a great chasm has been fixed, in order that those who would pass from here may not be able to, and none may cross from there to us.' And he said, 'Then I beg you, Father, to send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, so that they may warn them, lest they also come into this place of torment.' But Abraham said, 'They have Moses and the prophets. Let them hear him.' And he said, 'No, Father Abraham, but if someone goes to them from the dead, they will repent.' He said to him, 'If they do not hear Moses and the prophets, neither will they be convinced if someone should come from the dead.'" So this topic and the name of this podcast is, Where Will You Wake Up? Because we see this contrast of the rich man and the poor man. Both of them died, but there is a result on the other side of their death that they experience. So let's break this down. The rich man's life was full of anything that he wanted. He had no worries, he had no concerns. And we see Lazarus had to suffer so much. You know, you get the graphic detail of the dogs licking his sores. Just imagine how painful that would be. Now, this rich man, we see in the text, obviously had no relationship with God, because at his death, he went to hell. Obviously, based on the text, we could see that Lazarus had a relationship with God because of where he was. At no point does being rich send you to hell as much as does being poor get you into heaven. It is all about how you live your life and the choice that you made. See, every single day, billions of people across the world go about their daily routines. Many are making plans for the next week. Some are making plans for the next day. There's life as usual, as you could say. Each and every day across the world, there's people giving birth, welcoming in that joy of new life, just as well as there are many who are sitting there mourning because of the death of a loved one. Life has no guarantees. There is only one guarantee in this life, and that is death. As we go about wishing that we could go to a theme park for the day, there's no guarantee that it won't rain. We may get lucky and it might not. But there's no guarantee. Maybe we hope to find a spouse. There's no guarantee. Maybe we hope to get a new job. There's no guarantee. See, there's so many things that many people are searching for, and none of those things are guaranteed in life, except for death. And on the other side of death is the whole completion of your decision process. That completion is either going to send you to heaven or you're going to spend eternity in hell. Now, that decision is not one that should be made lightly, but unfortunately, that is a decision that gets often missed. People believe too often that there's more time. Listen, there's this thing that I want to do, or hey, listen, I don't want this God stuff now. I'll wait until I'm an old man, then I'll go to God and I'll start going to church. But right now I'm young. I don't want to waste my time with any of this. If you were to do a statistics search, and I haven't done that, but I could welcome you to do that, how many young people have died just today? How many young people have died since January of this year? We're in July. Well, actually, we're in August, as I'm recording this today in August. I bet you there's millions around the world that have died. Millions of young people who thought that they had their whole entire life in front of them, who were too busy or too unconcerned to be bothered with God. Now, just as we see that the rich man here was in so much torment that he did not want his brothers to go there. He wanted them to be warned of the potential hell that they were going to be facing. No pun intended. But Abraham said, they have Moses. They have the prophets. If they are not going to listen to them, they're not going to listen to this guy that they don't even know. How many preachers, how many evangelists, how many Christians do we have in this world today that people are not listening to? There's some people that you're just never going to get through to as a Christian. There's some people that you're never going to get through to as a preacher. There's some people that you're never going to get through to as an evangelist. They just have their hearts hardened toward God. But I want to look at this from two different angles. And if you are unsaved, I'm going to get to you in a moment. But this is for the Christians. In this reality, in this life that we are living in, you have made the decision to follow Christ. You have said, God, I want you to come into my heart. And with that, I am going to take on the responsibility of leading people to you. Now, understand that you're not a savior. You do not have any capability to save a soul, but you can be an influence on if somebody wants to be saved or not. As a confessing Christian, I want you to sit here and think today, who is it in your life that you know that doesn't know Jesus Christ? Now, what have you done to ensure that they know of Jesus Christ? Now, I want to be clear, I do not, and I will say this, I do not believe that you should beat someone upside the head with the Bible, metaphorically speaking, or real speaking too, but I don't believe you should beat someone upside the head with the Bible. Don't do that. Don't scare them away from Jesus. Nothing that Jesus did, nothing that Jesus ever was and is scary. It's not annoying. Don't be that person. If you're going to be a representation of Jesus, you have to be loving. You have to be caring. You have to be willing to listen. You have to be firm in your faith, and you have to not back down when pressured. So now, let me ask you this question now that we got that situated. If you are a confessing Christian, are you those things to the people who are unsaved around you? When they say, hey, do you have a second to talk? Are you turning your back on them and saying, no, you know what, I don't have time for that. I don't want to listen to that. Do they have the respect for you as a Christian to change who they are when they're in your presence? Have you noticed that? They may be cussing and carrying on to their friends right down the street. The second they come to you, hey, Mr. Sir, hey, Miss Ma'am, or whatever, Do they see that godliness coming out of you? Because as a Christian, people should see the difference and know it and understand it. Are you being an influence on whether or not that if they just died at that moment, that you did what you could to make sure they didn't go to hell? Because the question is, as a confessing Christian, it's not only am I going to heaven, but how many people am I bringing with me? That's the goal. Once you're saved, you've got that ticket. You are ready to go. So now the goal should be, you know what, let's fill up this bus. Let's go. Let's live the life that God led me to live, or that God is leading me to live, so this way I can help build the kingdom and change the world. That's our goal as a Christian today. But now understand that if you are a confessing Christian, I want you to know this, that if you are a confessing Christian, have you really asked God into your heart and to make those changes? Because understand, it is clear in the Bible that just because your grandmother and grandfather or your mother and your father went to church, just because you had some water sprinkled on you, does not mean you are going to go to heaven. It is if you have made a professing faith and accepted Jesus into your heart. You've professed it. You've said, Jesus, I want you in. I am not the same without you. I know you are the only one that can make that change into me. If you have not done that, then you are not a Christian. And if you died right now, you would go to hell. Make that decision. And when I ask those of you who are not saved, maybe you're listening today and you've put this Jesus thing off. You know, in the Bible, Jesus has more to say on the subject of hell than he does heaven. It doesn't mean that hell is greater than heaven. By no means. Heaven is a wonderful place. Heaven is where you're going to be in joy and comfort and peace for all eternity with the creator of the universe. But what this means is Jesus is talking about something serious. When Jesus mentions it several times, he wants you to understand there is something about that you should know. What he is saying when he mentions hell more than heaven is this is a place you don't want to go. You do not want to go there. I'm telling you this over and over again because, listen, I want you in heaven with me. I want you to be up here. I want you to worship me. But if you're not going to do that, then you're just going to be in hell. And this is the importance of the decision that you're going to make to go to heaven. I don't want that for you because we never know, as I mentioned before. Everybody right now is making a plan. Everybody has an agenda for the rest of their day, for the rest of the week, or maybe a plan 6 months from now, but we do not know if those plans will ever happen because the only thing that is guaranteed is death. And when you die and you close your eyes, you are going to wake up somewhere. And I hope and pray that that somewhere for you is heaven. I hope and pray that you have made the decision to accept Christ, and not only to just accept Christ into your heart, but to be open and willing to the changes that he is going to make into your heart, and there you will see your life blossom. And when that only guarantee in life comes, that death comes knocking on the door, you can be assured where you're going. I've been to the funerals of people that we knew did not want Christ, had nothing to do with Christ up until the day they died. They didn't want anything. Even at their last breath, they didn't want it. And I've been to funerals of people who loved Jesus, who were sure that they were going to heaven. They had a heart on fire for God. And the difference in contrast at those funeral services was massive. At the people who we knew were saved, there was this feeling of relief. There was this feeling of excitement. Yes, there was weeping and there was mourning. There's always a sadness when there is loss. But you knew where this person was. You knew that you would see them again if you believed. You knew where they were. You had an understanding. There's nothing worse than not knowing. So there's always this doubt to the people that have passed away that maybe they are unsaved. See, what happens is you go to these funerals and so many people want to say, well, they made it to heaven. They made it. I'm sorry, my friend, they're in hell. If they did not know Jesus, they went to hell. Don't make an excuse. Don't say anything different than that they are in hell. It is a hard reality to accept. But there is a confusion in that funeral home at that moment because you have some hoping and wishing. Hoping and wishing never gets you anywhere. It's the action that takes place, right? We know that. So unless they took an action to know Jesus, they're not in heaven. So this hoping and wishing that he's in heaven is not going to change the effect that he is now down in hell. And as we read, there is a barrier. There is no change. Once that death is done, that position is final. There's no opportunity to change your destination. It is a one-way ticket that you cannot refund. And the people at the unsaved funeral are confused. They're lost. They're just as lost as that individual was because they want to have hope that he's in heaven. They want to have hope. But then the reality is they don't know what's going on. And if there's saved people in that room, they know the real reality is they'll never see them again. So I want to ask today, if you are a Christian, are you living the life that is going to make people want to follow God, want to question who you are and what is that is shining out of you, and you can tell them about Jesus, and from that point it is up to them. But I ask, if you are listening today and you don't know Jesus, and you're unsure of your salvation, please make that decision, because it is a non-refundable ticket, my friend. And I don't want anybody to have to go to hell, but we know that's the unfortunate reality. Jesus is merciful and loving and willing to give you every opportunity until that time runs out. So I want to ask you today, where will you wake up, my friends? As I say each and every week, you got this. Make that decision. You can do it. Jesus loves you. We love you. The Christian group is a wonderful group of people to be among. We love each other. It's just like every family. You got your problems, but listen, we love you. We want you to be a part of it. And if you've joined the Christian group today, if you've made a decision for Christ, comment down below on the bottom, let us know, or send me an email, imperfectlyinspirational@gmail.com. I would love to hear your story. But either way, I hope that a decision can be made for Jesus, and I hope that we can continue to shine our light to the world and not want to leave anybody back. But folks, I love each and every one of you. I hope that y'all have a wonderful rest of the week.